Before the Saturday morning picture started, everybody used to join in singing a little song, the Saturday Morning Picture Club song. I don't know if you've heard of that. Well, if you'd like me to try and have a little sing for you. I'm not very good at singing, so you have to excuse me voice.
Now, are you ready, Uncle Ernie? Right, let's go.
We come along on Saturday morning, greeting everybody with a smile.
We come along on Saturday morning, knowing it's well worthwhile. As members of the GB Club, we all intend to be good citizens when we grow up, and champions of the free. We come along on Saturday morning, greeting everybody with a smile, 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 greeting everybody with a smile.
When it closed down completely, I was very sad. Everyone I know was absolutely shocked and heartbroken that we didn't know anything about it being demolished. It seemed to happen overnight. It was just gone.
That was a big day because that was a monument to Farnham. It was a noticeable building. Every town should have a cinema, and it was a big one, and it was old and historic. Anything like that happens in Farnham is always a bit of a concern and a bit of a mental note of what have we lost, or are we going to gain something better? The Farnham Cinema was a 1930s type building. It was very huge and brick and a bit imposing, a bit like a mausoleum, I thought, as a child.
In those days, you went in, they tore your ticket in half, and an usherette with a torch used to show you to your seat. And then those same usherettes used to come around with a little tray strapped around their neck, and they had ice creams and cigarettes, and all the seats used to have little ashtrays in the back and things like that.
The first time I went to the cinema in Farnham, I must have been about 11. It was the first time that I really went on a girly outing to watch the newly released Grease. And my mother always said that we went in as children and we came out as teenagers.
I think it was probably 4 or 5 years I worked there. And I remember Grease when it first came out. We used to be able to get up onto the roof, and these teenagers queuing for the film would be around the block and then off down into the high street. It was a little bit like putting on a West End show. We weren't the performers, but we were in charge of people's entertainment for the night. There was always stuff to do. So if you don't know, film used to come on 35mm acetate film. They used to get delivered metal boxes with 200-foot reels of film. Now, we used to have to join all those film spools together and create one big spool of film. We had what was called Cayley 21s, big cinema projectors, which was just like two big spools, one at the top and one at the bottom. The film used to come across off the top, through the projector, down through the bottom, and then loop back on the bottom spool. Film used to run for 90 minutes, and then when that was finished, you'd had to swap over, load up the film again, relace the projector, and start the second movie. What you have to remember is that, one, there was no real television, not the way that we have it now. Television was really information or education. There was no social media, there was no mobile phone. So really, most people's centre for their communication, information, and to look outside of their own dull world was through the cinema, and that's why it became a central hub.
I think people just live busier lives. You can download something and watch it later, which is a shame because in my day it was a huge event. You'd talk about it all week. You'd know when the next showing of the new releases would come in.
I feel like my experience nowadays compared to the ones that my parents had is that I have so much choice.
When I was young, bought streaming services where I think oftentimes going to the cinema was the way to see new movies.
My parents went to the cinema, they'd watch it and then they wouldn't see it for so much longer. So it was that one time they'd see it and it was a really special experience.
I remember my mum's described to me a time when she got to see Star Wars. Being absolutely amazed by the effects and the sound in the cinema and stuff that you don't get at home, whereas now you can sort of have good setups like that.
Big movie with good cinematography really does deserve a big screen with the full works.
The newer type of cinemas these days are primarily a business for the film industry. You've got multi-screen cinemas offering you anything you want to see really, and you've got all of your confectionery and what have you there. But I think there's still the drive to go to the cinema. I think it's an excellent place to go. So with the advancement of technology, there's always going to be a point right at the beginning of the technology explosion where people move away from what was to what is now. I think what we saw happen with the advent of Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, all those streaming services, a lot of people kind of went off and did them because it was great. We can do it at home and we can watch telly at home.
I am addicted to Netflix.
Netflix,
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, and Amazon Prime.
And Disney Plus.
Plus.
Everything. I love it all.
But then what happened is that people lost the ability to engage with other people. And so it becomes a very singular activity being at home. There's a convenience side of things, and then there's the whole thing about the mental well-being of people.
I will say that there are certain experiences that I've tied to the cinema and that I'll never change. But then I also know I'm guilty saying that I would never give up Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus because it's so convenient, it's so easy. And when you come home from a hard day, you do put it on.
I'd say we'd see a lot more streaming platforms come in and maybe give Netflix a bit of competition. It's not necessarily a bad thing for the film industry because a lot more scripts are getting picked up. A lot of producers, they need new content because there's a constant demand.
I think that the future of cinema is going back into the past. It's becoming more of a novelty. It's becoming more of a special experience.
It will become probably like theater. Something you go once in a while and to experience it, that's it. As soon as the movie starts, it doesn't really matter, just enjoy it.
The cinema is amazing and I just love it because the sound, the surroundings and everything like that is just great. Cinemas are awesome.
I'm absolutely besotted by it. It's great.
So I've worked at a cinema for roughly 3 years.
I go every year for my birthday. I go to the cinema about 8 times a year.
So in 2019, I saw 200 new film releases. Around, I would say 50 to 65% of those were probably at the cinema. So I believe that's around 2 to 3 a week.
When people come in, you mainly want them to feel welcomed. People are often excited to go see the film, especially younger children.
Popcorn,
Comfort,
big screen,
minimal adverts,
snacks, loud sounds.
respectful audiences.
So you want that excitement to carry through all the way until they sit down and the film begins.
Then it goes dark, it's you in the film. I like the idea of it being a community experience as well.
Sometimes having other people's reactions brings more to the film.
I like watching films with people and gauging where the consensus in the room is.
What kind of movie is this? I think it does affect my everyday life because I really want to do prop making for films. And I want to go into the cinema when I'm much older and see the things I have made on screen.
At the cinema I work at, we do a seniors club where old people can come in and watch a film for cheaper, but also grab a coffee or a tea. We get a lot of regulars from this. One day one of the ladies brought in some cakes and shared them out with me and my colleagues. She's very sweet and we all love her.
But yeah, I would have been 6 or 7 when I saw Toy Story 2. Yeah, I saw it with my dad. I remember just being so excited about all the toys I had at home being on screen. It just blew my mind. Toy Story 2 has got a special place in my heart for that, I think.
My memory is going to see How to Train Your Dragon with my sisters for my birthday. It felt nice and cosy, so I could really feel like I was in the film. But I think really it was really nice to spend some time with my sisters.
How do you feel about not being able to go to the cinema this year?
I feel sad and angry.
If cinemas permanently closed, all of them, I'd be distraught. I'd be heartbroken. I kind of feel like that's 120 years, more than 120 years of tradition that we'd be losing.
I don't know what it's going to be like not going to the cinema this year.
I would be upset. I mean, I would lose a job. And as someone who enjoys film, I would be disappointed. And it would greatly change the way people watch films.
I think it would increase loneliness. I think it would increase antisocial behaviour.
The anticipation of going to the cinema is gone.
It would increase the likelihood that children would become addicted to their smartphones. I also think that we are going to be seeing less people wanting to go into the industry, which means that we'll see less quality. I think really important for the future generations to see films as they deserve to be seen. But I think the choice is important. I think from a realist point of view, people will struggle, cinemas will struggle, but I think the audiences will get behind cinemas when they reopen.
I think there is hope for the future of cinema. Cinemas bring you a joy and immersion that being at home can't quite give you. It's fun going to the cinema, it gives you a day out and a chance to meet with your friends and family.
And it's very, very important to little kids. But I don't think most people know that. They kind of forget that even though we're going with our parents, we still have our own personal experience to the film. I think enough people love cinema for it to make a difference. Little kids like me will one day grow up and then take their kids.
The idea of losing it would be difficult to comprehend.
Cinemas are important because it's still the best place to watch a film. Nothing will ever have the same impact as cinemas. They're important because they make people happy.
Cinemas, I believe, are important because it allows you to see films in a new way.
A way to experience a film in its intended environment.
Cinemas are important.
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 The cinema is just the best experience because it's like bringing all of the arts together, and I think the cinema is the perfect way to view and to experience art.
But it's definitely not going anywhere anytime soon.
你吃了吗？
吃了。我们小时候吃饺子，因为那水饺那时候啊，一般的也就是1个月、2个月的吃这么一回。那个时候吧，80年代嘛，那个时候吃饺子大部分都是那个白菜馅儿。里边的肉腥很少啊，那时候肉啊挺贵的，能吃到啊就觉得哎呀不得了。你奶奶也包过那个西瓜皮馅的水饺，你知道吗？就是把那个西瓜的红瓤去掉，把那个外边那层硬的绿皮也去掉，剩下中间这块白的，包出来的水饺啊比那冬瓜和那黄瓜的还鲜美了。然后呢就把那个白的这个瓜皮啊剁碎了，然后再加点鸡蛋啊，虾仁啊，还有韭菜，韭菜是提鲜的，因为它的这样包出来的水饺啊，这个馅的水分特别大，所以做出的水饺里边啊是带汤的，不干，所以特好吃。那时候我们下饺子就是一下就下一大盘了，这一下大约有多少个呢？有100多个。我那时候也特别能吃，有时候一次能吃30-40个。那个饺子放到嘴里边啊，还没等它嚼烂，就这么囫囵吞下去了。烫的那个嘴皮子啊，特别的疼。平时都落不着吃吧。所以就觉得太香了，有时一口一个也不吹吹，就这么囫囵的吞下去。 其实我们包饺子的时候啊，都是你二达的和你爷爷负责擀皮，你奶奶和你大大的在包水饺，我呢就负责起锅烧水。你奶奶啊，到最后能一次性能擀5、6张皮儿，而且擀的那个皮儿啊也特别大特别圆，包的包子也大。因为那时候啊，我们家5口人吃饭呢，就是你奶奶一个人在忙活啊。为了赶时间怎么办呢？只能把这个包3个水饺的时间用来包一个大饺子，这样不就省出时间来了吗？过年过节的时候啊，大家喜欢围在一起吃饺子，这寓意着什么呢？团团圆圆发大财。后来啊，就不断的出了花样了，就除了馅儿之外，再加上别的东西，来增加一些寓意。比方说是加上红枣吧，就是代表早生贵子。加上板栗呢，就是栗子嘛。意思是对孩子们好，里边再加上个钢镚，就是发财的意思了。你记不记得那年我吃了7、8个钢镚出来，那时候就是高兴的不行，感觉真的像发了财一样。有时候我们放些辣椒进去来捉弄人，看谁能吃到，辣一下子，大家都哈哈一笑就过去了。有的时候呢，里边也会包点盐啊，或者包点胡椒面什么的，反正就是大家都是为了取乐吧，为了高兴。那个时候啊，反正觉得饺子特别的好吃。为什么觉得好吃呢？就是那个时代呢，这个物资比较匮乏吧，物以稀为贵嘛，所以那个时候啊，在生活里吃顿饺子就太美了。所以老人说话就是舒服不如倒着，好吃啊不如饺子。那个时候吃饺子就是一种奢侈，所以我们啊也特别懂得珍惜。今年的2月12号啊，就是春节了嘛。但是今年因为疫情的问题吧，大家不能一起聚。现在呢，国内外的防疫工作压力都比较大。听说英国也挺厉害的啊。所以我们决定啊，就地过年了，不再到处转悠了，也不回家了。你奶奶打电话给我们说了，说哎呀，现在这个状况这么严峻啊，也能理解，所以回不了家也不要太难过。现在不都是科技时代嘛，都有视频了嘛，所以我们也感觉挺欣慰的。我们就准备自己啊包水饺自己吃了吧。我们准备包点那个特别新鲜的，比方说白菜或者韭菜的，加上点肉，因为白菜的这水饺寓意比较好嘛，白菜就是发财，发大财。我们考虑到这个饺子本身的寓意啊，就挺深的，所以包点水饺吧。也是寄托一种对家人的思念。所以你们每天是不是吃些速冻的水饺，就跟吃那个快餐似的，没有获得感。所以我觉得你们还是自己动点手包点别老吃那速冻的。包点水饺吧。也是寄托一种对家人的思念。
want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Simon Perry and Roger Deakins and myself, we decided to make another film, and we said to ourselves, nobody's making 1984. Why is it? We're in 1984, or coming up for it, and I thought, somebody's going to go and see this picture. It is something special. And we found out that the rights were owned not by Francis Ford Coppola or anybody of the other big guys, but a lawyer from Chicago. And we did a deal with him. Simon said he'd get the actors and the people in, and I said that I'd write the script. I wrote the script. It took me not very long because we had to get this thing out. And we had a little bit of kudos behind us, and we went and we raised the money to do it, and we made this company. And I remember with 1984, the first thing that happened was that I went to a BAFTA thing and I saw John Hurt there, and as I saw John Hurt, I thought, he looks exactly like what I have always imagined Winston Smith to look like. And I went up to him and said, John, Mr. Hurt, would you play Winston Smith in 1984? And I'd just like to say to you that if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to make the film. And that was true. I wasn't kidding. And he knew I wasn't kidding. And he said, I'm doing it right there. It was fantastic. And I was, it was fantastic. And we became great friends. Then nobody was touching Richard Burton because he was supposed to be a drunk. I think he probably was, actually. But anyway, we kicked off the film. We sent a plane to Haiti to pick him up, and we started shooting the picture. He came 3 or 4 months after we'd started shooting the pictures. I think it's the only time when you have a major star and you're shooting a picture and you don't have him. But he came, and he was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. He was one of the most extraordinary actors I've ever worked with, and he was very good and unfortunately, he died right at the end of the picture, which was terrible. Which was really terrible. Our aim was to get the film finished in 1984, so it would come out in 1984, and shoot it. And actually, there was even a couple of days in 1984 where we shot the actual events from the book, not because we could possibly put that into the schedule, but it just happened. So when Julia gives the letter to him in the middle of Victory Square and pops it into his hand like that, and then they go off into the countryside, that moment was actually done on exactly the moment in May the 3rd, 1984, as in the book. That's when it happened. But the rest was just, making it up as you go along. I had a very, very good crew. I had a wonderful DP, and it looked the way I wanted it to look like. This is something. One cameraman, Roger Deakins, shooting a massive amount, 2,000 people we've got in this bunker in the middle of Salisbury Plain or somewhere like that. And the people there were all country people, and they were all to shout and scream and give salutes and all the rest of it. And what happened was that at least as this thing was going on, 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe even 20 people actually had to leave and got into a state of hysteria and couldn't actually take it anymore. They were they were ill from it. It was extraordinary, the power of propaganda. Even though it's not real. So that was a really interesting moment. The interesting thing about it is that practically everything that was in it was happening in the world in 1984. All the executions, the torture, the cruelty, and all the rest of it. He was trying to make a parallel universe, basically. That's the way that we looked at it. It was about the world of 1984 as seen from 1948. In 1984 wasn't completely like that. Obviously it wasn't. But there are elements in it, elements of human destruction, human violence, of taking people's rights away from them, selling them propaganda which completely and totally, runs everything. And what you realise is that right-wing force is based on pain, killing, beating, whatever it is. The left wing is based on guilt. It's making the person that you are working against, you are accusing, is to make them feel guilt about who they are and everything. And this transfers itself, this is what most people don't know, is that it transfers itself into music. And my composer, the guy who composed the original music for the film, for us, told me that all right-wing music is in the major key and all left-wing music is in the minor key. And it's true. When you listen to the national anthems, put it that way, I'm not talking all music, but I'm talking really about the national anthems. And there's a rollicking national anthem which drives people on to wave their guns and all the rest of it, and there's another one which makes people sort of deeply afraid of themselves. and that's a reality. That's an absolute reality, and that's how we scored the movie actually as we were doing it. Oh God, this is terrible. I had a terrible quarrel with Richard Branson because he tried to change Richard Branson was financing the film, tried to change the music, which I'd had all done and everything like that. And I got a call from the Bahamas, and it was Annie Lennox saying, she'd done this music and why hadn't I heard it or anything like that. I said, I didn't even know you were doing it. I think Richard was trying to buy the Eurythmics into Virgin Records and get them going because they were the biggest band at the time. They did all sorts of things, and I got really angry. And as I got really angry, I made a speech on television. I said, look, I was receiving the British Film Award for a film that's not in the cinemas at the moment. I don't understand. I made a film and it's not there. It was just chaos. It was chaos. It exploded. I became the most famous person on television for a bit. I mean, not really, but people wrote to me saying, it was great what you did, you were standing up. They had no idea what I was talking about. Standing up, that you're not going to, as an artist, going to be let down, all that kind of stuff. But I never really expected 1984 to take fire. But it took fire after that speech that I'd made on TV. And then people went to see it. And then the people who went to see it were not the Orwellites, who were 30 and 40 years old, but the kids. And the kids loved that sort of desperate sense of it, the feeling of the world was leaving them behind and all that kind of thing. And it was a huge hit. It was a huge hit in the West End. Hundreds and thousands of people came to see it. And it was a film without a happy ending of any description at all. It just took off. It didn't make the kind of money that Star Wars would have made or anything like that. I mean, it just didn't. But it made a lot of money. And it was seen by a lot of people, which was what interested me. And over the years, it's gained more and more kudos, the movie. I think that if you look at the world today, you see an awful lot of George Orwell. The lies that politicians tell, the pretense that they'll put on, the ways in which people are tortured and destroyed, and their lives are brought to ruin in various different countries across the world. And it's very interesting that abroad, where the people really, really went to see the film in their huge numbers of thousands, was in countries like Germany, Italy, South America, those countries which had suffered long at the hands of left or right-wing dictators. They saw in it everything that they needed to see. It became a sort of big cult movie, and I don't take credit for that. The real genius of that is Orwell himself. And the only thing that I contributed, and I feel proud of contributing, was I just visualised it as I'd visualised it when I read that book. And there it was on the screen. And you know, with the bleach bypass, with the costumes, the way in which we did all that stuff, and especially what's her name, who played the girl. She wasn't, you know, a movie star as such. She was just a fantastically normal human being who acted an incredibly good part. And those are the things that I'm really proud of in that film. So that was 1984, and it was an amazing experience. It really, really was. So it took us weeks and weeks and weeks to get over it. And the philosophy and everything, all I did was bring that to life. And I guess that's what you do as a filmmaker.
就是走在公园里的时候，从一个口进，然后映入眼帘的就是一个告示牌，它上面写着一些公园的简介。从入口处你就能看到很多大人啊带着小孩去公园里散步啊、散心啊。自从这个疫情到来，人们都开始被迫保持社交距离了。我觉得正是因为这样，这个公园的好处它也就凸显出来了。大家都长时间宅在家嘛，都想出去呼吸下新鲜空气。那么我觉得法纳姆公园就成了人们放松和休息的最好的地方了。
That's a nice place, Farnham, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
there's more forests and woodlands in Surrey than any other county.
Yeah.
But of course the thing is, with the COVID, if you travel and go a few miles outside, away from your local area, you can be fined because you're not supposed to go too far away now. Now we're in tier 5. They don't like you travelling outside too much.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful.
It's so lovely, your grandchildren.
Yeah, one is
Cute.
one is 7 and one is 9. Yeah.
Wow.
Nearly, yeah.
有时候会在公园中看到老人们坐在那看书，而他的狗就趴在草地上陪着他。这让我觉得，即使人变老了，也一样可以热爱生活。我觉得呢，法纳姆公园它更像是一个森林式的公园。它给我的第一感觉就是很野生，很贴近自然，它没有那种都市的喧闹，而是有一种生活中那种平静且真实的那种美丽。这里和我家乡不同的是，英国的家长都很乐意让自己的孩子们在泥地中玩耍， 哪怕小孩子们玩得脏兮兮的，家长也不会阻止他们，特别鼓励孩子们去贴近自然。这里是小孩子的游乐园，他们做的是木桩，连秋千也是木头做的。即便秋千上沾满了泥泞，也不阻碍他们开心的玩耍。我觉得那个鸟挺有意思的，就是那个雕塑，站在木桩上，我感觉特别美，特别自由。
我可能下不去了。我真的好滑，我靠上面。
这肯定会的，因为我觉得一个城市里啊，包括一个居民居住的地方，一定要有一个休闲娱乐的场所，而这种场所呢，既能缓解压力，而且呢还能更贴近自然。就当现在的人很忙碌啊，生活压力很大的时候，他需要得到一种释放，而这样的公园是很自然、很贴近环境的一个，就会非常缓解人压力的一个地方。当然，这个公园我觉得是必不可少的。如果说没有这个公园的话，我可能会选择，到类似这样的一个场地里去继续缓解或者是更贴近自然的这样一种。因为我比较喜欢那里，因为我觉得那里和我家乡的公园很不一样，因为那里有很多在家乡公园看不到的那种景象，是真的是得以一个放松的一种感觉。景色，你甚至都愿意去拿手机去拍一张照片留作一个纪念。我觉得这是一个很不错的一个体验，尤其是你能在下完雨的季节，然后去公园散步，能看到，就是真的是很缓解压力的一种感觉。看到这样的场景的话，不自觉的也会带入，就是在一个比较安逸的午后啊，在公园里去坐着，去做某件事的时候， 是一个就是特别自然、特别良好的一个环境，也许会给你带来很多创作灵感，感受到许多特别美丽的事，而且你会自觉地带入那个情景，好像你就是这个公园的一份子一样。
照一照。
大家都叫我某某多一点。对，我是去年10月份刚刚来英国上 LCF 的 GD Fashion Management 的，在深圳过来的。因为我是大学毕业了，工作了2年才过来上学的，所以相对可能经济稍微独立一点，而且想法比较多一点。因为平常英国东西又不好吃，又贵，再加上因为同学这边其实大部分中国味的还是挺多的，所以经常会有一些朋友到家里来吃饭。刚开始单纯的只是因为喜欢，就对这个东西其实真的是很强烈的兴趣爱好。然后后来就是朋友之间觉得吃的多了，我家里有人喜欢吃甜品，但是又有糖尿病，那些就对糖类的东西比较不行，所以我有当时去研究过，人家有些做一些 organic 的那种甜品，但是他们那种呢又过于专业化了一点，而且口感上会比较差。本身其实也是很喜欢做这些东西，做饭也好，做烘焙也好，就是一个喜欢爱好。伦敦的蛋糕都是比较偏甜的，然后我做的蛋糕都是比较低脂低糖的那种，尽量都是往低卡的，包括我用的糖啊也是低卡的，所以我有试过用代糖也好，或者用那种零蔗糖的东西去做。在来伦敦以后，又觉得伦敦东西真的过甜，我自己也可以吃，因为我本身不爱吃甜的。行，我在家等你们就过来吧。
你是吃牛排吗？我觉得这个锅比辣锅好吃。对啊，好入味。
它什么时候打折？什么时候？
这啥？
香草鸡。我放的是这个。夏威夷果。对。
虽然说英国在部分基础成本上面是很低的，比如说什么黄油啊、奶油啊这些成本相对于国内它是低很多的，但是有一些比较稀有性的成本，那个材料就可能它这边并没有，你甚至于我有些材料是直接从国内运过来的，你要我上去找也非常的贵。
烘焙巧克力豆前面应该有。我以后的是这种锅的是的。
其实我更偏向于日式的，对，因为可能日式的它会更精细，包括做蛋糕的话，我很喜欢就是韩式的， 还有复古风之类的一些。对，我会自己拿下来试一下，同样的东西我会试很多种配方，甚至于就是说根据自己的口味再进行一些更改，最后才会形成一个自己的一个所做出来的一些东西。现在就属于那种还算比较上手，就是至少它的口感就是基本上接近于正常的甜品，就蛋糕也好啊，那些小甜点也好，但是呢它这里面就会甜度会降低很多，然后它会比如说针对一些不爱吃糖的或者是不能吃糖的人来说是更能于接受一点的。对于我来说，我更多的是注重于怎么去研究做甜品。我在这个准备过程中，朋友也帮了很多，然后都很鼓励我去做这些事情，所以也会根据大家的口味来和根据自己的口味进行一些调整。然后朋友呢，因为我很多朋友，因为我们是一个艺术学校，所以很多设计类同学，所以大家可以发挥自己的特长去帮我做一些什么外宣也好啊，包装设计啊。目前为止，我们想说是通过留学圈先进行宣发。现在留学圈的比较多的可能就是 Instagram， 然后小红书，然后像朋友圈这些。所以我做这个的主要初衷也是想为留学生做一个可以买到又好吃，然后吃起来没有特别大负担的一个甜品。基本都是靠看视频。哔哩哔哩啊、小红书啊、抖音我都有看。一般我会试很多配方，然后再根据自己的口味，然后再根据一些可能个人需求吧，去做一些更改。现在目前因为疫情问题，基本上都网课嘛，所以空闲时间比较多，所以我更多就会开始培养自己的兴趣。我喜欢去研究一些美食，就不可能是也是因为自己嘴巴比较刁，做烘焙是我自己一直很喜欢的，所以会经常在家花很多时间去研究这些东西，也经常会翻车，但是成功率还蛮高的。对啊，再加上我在这方面可能多少是还真是有点天赋，就是我会去很精准的去做一些东西，就让它的那个错误率尽量降到最低。就在家大部分时间都在研究这些。
2个蒸饺包的来。
好。过2碗豆浆呗。
好，放糖吗？
放。
几点就开门了呀
？1点。
1点钟您就开始了，这边。
对呀，这晚上上班的人、下班的人，我1点多就得准备这些东西，做完了以后赶紧，有的人家就是刚下班的，吃完饭直接睡觉，你知道吗？
您干了多少年了呀？
我干的年数不长，我干了13年，我老公干了20年了。
孩子在哪儿呢？
留守儿童在老家。
那您每年多长时间回去？
就是春节。
春节才回去。
过年的时候休息个10几20天。
全年也不休。
没有休假日，人家吃早餐到那时候就过来了，你休息1天，人家吃啥的，是不是？
那也没办法呀，为了生活嘛。
Yanjiao is located in the triangle of Hebei and Beijing borders, set in the developed cities around the economic strength, social forces, and environmental forces in one of the developing cities. Year 2004, Beijing has established a new multi-level space development models of 2 taxes and 2 belts and more centers. With the introduction of new city planning, transfers capitals to the east, promote the development of capitalist property market represented by Yanjiao, facing a great location. local government departments are also planning the layout of regional economic zone development layout, put forward the idea of Beijing into Beijing, rely on the concept of Beijing facing the world. Yanjiao in 2003, the resident population of less than 50,000. Yanjiao total population reached 450,000. Among them, the resident population in urban areas is 250,000. Urbanization rate is 80%, another 200,000 floating population. With the real estate in recent years and the constant spillover of Beijing population, just 6 years' time, Yanjiao population of nearly 1 million, equivalent to medium city standards.
平时都几点起床啊
？5点多，5、6点吧。
那您到北京通勤时间要多久呢
？1个多小时，快的时候1个半小时吧。那为什么选择住在燕郊呢？
这他人买房买不起。
那您觉得每天往返这个燕郊跟北京之间这个幸福指数高吗？
我家就是这边的，还好一点。
不高是吧？每天早上几点起来呀？
每天呀，每天因为他在北京上班，每天我们大概5点钟吧。
花费在路上的通勤时间要多久呢？
差不多1个小时。
啊，差不多1个小时，那还蛮快的，是吧？
对，早上起得早。
那您觉得那个每天往返北京跟燕郊，这个幸福指数高吗？
还行，因为我刚好避开高峰期嘛。
您天天骑着这个电动车过来送他是吧？
啊，对。
还挺辛苦的每天哈。
没有，就为了他这个更快一点。
我看您是来送人的是吧？是。他是您的
孩子。
他每天几点起呢？大概？
不是天天回来
，1周回来几次这种是吧？
对。
通勤时间是多少？
1个多小时吧。
还挺辛苦的，这么早过来送人家孩子。
那自个儿家孩子有什么辛苦的呀？
我看您挺冷呀。
冷啊，习惯就好了。
那您是在哪边上班啊？
海淀。
哦，北京海淀。
对对对。
每天早上几点起啊？通勤时间是大概多久
？4点多吧，通勤时间2小时左右。
您为什么选择在燕郊住，而不是在北京？
那个北京贵嘛，然后那个在燕郊住还能省点钱，给孩子攒点学费什么、生活费什么的。
这样的话，每天往返燕郊和北京，这样跨省的，那您觉得辛苦吗？
你觉得呢？就是这不就是生活吗？
那未来有什么目标或者计划吗？
计划就是好好挣钱，好好工作，然后讨个媳妇，然后看看生活过好点呗。车来了，不好意思，我得走了，再见再见，赶车去了。
上城4期站到了，请您后门下车，下车请刷卡。
你好，你好，今天忙了一天累吗？
累。
那您是在这边住了有多长时间了呢
？13年了。
您怎么看待这个燕郊这个城市？
我作为一个外地人来讲话，燕郊来讲话呢，就是完全是泡沫，它只能说是挨着北京近，是个睡城而已。只要在燕郊买房的，85%签贷款，3代期贷款。它工资待遇呢，不像以前北京的高，就业岗位多，现在就业岗位几乎为0，只能是咬着牙挺着。
回到老家对他们来说压力会小一些呢？
那压力小一些的话，他这个生活成本高了，孩子以后都什么都耽误了，
那您觉得这些年轻人的路该往哪里走下一步？
那像我只有国家放宽政策啊，让这个老百姓有好的希望、好的未来啊。
您觉得您在燕郊就这边生活的幸福指数高吗？
太差了，极差。就我身边的朋友都极差，都是咬着牙的勒紧裤腰带。
您作为814燕郊通往北京这一个18站就门前的这个门店，您观察到的一些景象是什么呢？他们大概早上几点就开始排队了？
你分3个阶段，5点出门呢，4点20跟家几乎起床，坐6点到7点这些车呢，大概是9点钟上班。那就是说，所谓的白领、金领级的呢，拼车呀、私家车呀。
那您觉得平时他们在排队的人是一种什么样的状态呢？
如果说按我这说呢，那是真是可怜兮兮的。有些这么寒冷，他为了生活，为了工作，他只能是咬着牙跟他打。为了生活，只能是咬牙去奋斗。
燕郊 is the base camp for the Beijing drifters, who leaves early and returns late. While the Chaobai River they surged through east-west every morning and night, witnesses their expectations for the bright future. The Yanjiao people from all walks of life share the similar routine for Yanjiao living, Beijing working, due to the consideration of living cost, which means they have to spend 3 or 4 hours on the road every day. In spite of all the hardships they go through, the majority of them still can find the meaning and value of living.
听说游戏主播可以很赚钱，我想自己养活家人，可以火遍全球。
我想当军人，军人很勇敢。
长大想当一名消防员，因为消防员他可以在火里去救人，变得自己非常伟大。
小学正是孩子们可以肆意梦想、肆意绽放青春的阶段，但如今国家和国家在比拼教育，学校和学校在比拼升学率，家长和家长在比拼学习成绩。在现在中国竞争压力的大环境下，越来越多的焦虑正包围着家长。现在的孩子们还是无忧无虑的吗？
该起床了，该上学了。
据2018年数据显示，全国参加高考人数约940万，其中本科院校录取人数约为309万，录取率33.6%。211和985高校录取人数约为46万和15万，录取率为5%和1.63%，且每年报名参加高考人数呈上升趋势。根据此数据，可以说，你需要进入你省排名前1%到2%，才能考上985高校，清北更是难上加难。 建国以来，我国多次改进和落实中小学减负政策，多地出台减负清单，并且深入推进考试招生制度改革。但新高考改革也遇到很多现实困难，家长焦虑只增不减。因为教育资源有限，择校现象十分严重。尽管政府抵制，很多家长仍然选择让孩子超前学习，实现抢跑。
辅导班可以帮我每次都得优加，还可以提升我的知识。我上的辅导班有英语，还有数学，还有作文。
因为金字塔式的人才选拔规则，即使政策规定减负，家长们仍然会想让孩子赢在起跑线上，或者弯道超车。6年的小学生涯成为孩子们学习成长道路上的第一座高山。
21世纪初时，智能手机就慢慢走进了人类的生活中，它开始慢慢变成密不可分的存在。又经过10几年的发展，越来越多的智能手机厂商开始推出不计其数的更卓越的手机，给人类的生活带来了天翻地覆的变化。
Hello and welcome back. It's great to have you join us. I'm really excited for today and the news we have to share with you. It's amazing to think that this is our third major event.
喂，妈。哎，没事儿，我们在这边过得挺好的。啊，英国疫情，还好，没有国内报道那么严重。
2020年初，突如其来的新型冠状病毒开始席卷全球，整个世界仿佛病了一样。每天的确诊人数日益剧增，人们都生活在水深火热之中。
当前的新冠肺炎疫情的防控工作仍不可行。
这次疫情呢，我想待在家里这段时间，包括待在学校，这段时间呢，我想觉得对于我来说是一个不错的提升自我的时间吧。我认为，因为我可以有更多的时间去研究我的课题，对，应该大概是这个样子。
对于中国孩子，他们大多都没有熟练做饭的技能，智能手机上的菜谱软件对于他们就像是一种福音，看着手机上的步骤就能学习烹饪各种美食。 疫情期间，大家都不能出门，日常的买菜、学习做饭，对于这些在家从不做饭的他们，仿佛变成了一种乐趣。
因为大家都在家里，其实挺无聊的，大家可以在线上，一起联机打游戏，或者是日常交流都通过手机，我认为还是挺方便的。但跟之前比起来，我认为其实没有太大的差别。我认为，因为现在这确实是一个手机的时代。
跟不上，就等哎。
不论是疫情前还是如今，电子游戏对于青少年来说，就像是平日生活里的一道光。
没死。
疫情限制了我们出去游玩的脚步，手机娱乐开始成为我们如今日常生活中极少数消遣方式之一。
Hello 啊。
Hello， 在干啥呢？
我在看视频呢。
看什么视频？
德云逗笑社。对。
好无聊，要不要去超市？没有水了。
好啊，那我们一会儿出门看看吧。戴好口罩哦，外面挺冷的，穿个衣服。我们去那个什么，去买点水，买点食材啥的，也没有了。在我看来呢，手机的产生怎么说，推动了科技的发展，推动了拉近了人与人之间的距离吧。虽然说大家见不到面，不过说实话，这是通过手机的视频聊天，或者是一些应用软件上面的一些交流，我们可以更快的了解对方，可以更好的去得到自己并不是很快速能得到的东西。所以说，我觉得，如果说没有一个手机的世界的话，我觉得那是挺可怕的。
一次疫情不仅让我们感叹生命的脆弱和不易，却也让我们对之前的生活片段产生无尽的怀念。对于留学生来说，他们不仅要慢慢熟悉身边陌生的文化和生活方式，在独自一人夜深人静时，也会怀念那些美好的时光。
我想研发一个社交型软件，然后每天在这个社交型软件上会登报最近的感染人数啊，或者是一些疫情的新的新闻。
你有没有什么话想对这个疫情下的世界说一说？
是的，我有一句，不过非常短 ，Take care yourself。
嘿，我叫宣达，一个来自中国的留学生。英国的冬天真的很冷，圣诞节就快要到了。不过我可能一个人要过圣诞节。这里的一切都那么陌生，文化冲击和语言环境让我真的很难交到朋友。一个又接一个的 lockdown， 本来就内向的我更加不敢出门了。我好想家呀，我好孤独。时间仿佛过得很慢，我不知道家那边还好不好。
This map shows the tier systems in England. The dark red area, London and the southeast, is in tier 4 with the toughest restrictions because of the spread of the variant of the virus. Orange shows those parts of England in tier 2, some of which are bordering that tier 4 block. Now, in terms of cases per 100,000 people, the blue line shows what's been happening.
没那人衣服好看。是啊，太热不行。好热呀！
来，快，慢慢也跟镜头打个招呼，跟镜头。
跟家里人打了电话之后呢，我决定自己也动手做一顿火锅吃。一个人吃火锅呢，其实是一件很孤独的事情，但这是唯一能让我感觉到温暖的，能让我想起家乡的。火锅呢是圆的，代表着团团圆圆。尽管呢自己吃火锅，但是只要听到了食物与开水之间在锅中翻滚的咕噜咕噜声，这就让我安心了许多。在英国，这里不像中国，很多的中国火锅里的食材在这边都很难买到。我非常想念那些黄喉、毛肚、血豆腐之类的，哎呀，太多了，我数都数不过来。吃火锅嘛，食材当然是最重要的，蘸料也特别的关键。幸好在这边的超市里有咱中国的麻酱。其实呢， 火锅的做法，我也一直觉得挺野蛮的，不就是把生的食物放进锅里煮熟吗？这感觉一点技术含量都没有。但是火锅的乐趣就在于分享，跟朋友之间一起分享食物，分享生活。我也拍了我自己在宿舍隔离期间呢吃火锅的视频给我家里，他们都觉得我过得太惨了。在这样一个严峻的趋势下，也能保持着一个吃货的心，这可能也就是我在隔离期间变胖了的原因之一吧。总而言之呢，希望大家可以开开心心的过好每一天。
headlines of a novel coronavirus, now known as COVID-19. 3 months later, it has swept the world, issuing a global pandemic.
I don't really think about the impact. I just think about the impact of my heart. My world is so small.
안녕하세요. 제 이름은 남입니다. Hi, it's Nami. 안녕하세요. 제 이름은 남입니다. Hi. 안녕하세요. 제 이름은 남입니다. Hi. 안녕하세요. 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 남입니다. Hi, it's Nemi, and today I have a haul video for you. And before I started YouTube, I was very lonely. I think that's why I came onto the YouTube platform, because I found that I couldn't make meaningful connections with my friends at school and with my classmates. So I was mostly uploading kind of as a hobby as a 14-year-old. At that age, I don't think I was able to conceptualize the concept. I don't think I was able to understand mental health at all, or vulnerabilities. I think I just wanted to share and wanted to put myself out there to be able to create meaningful relationships. And as someone who was a teenager, I think it's just became something that transformed into itself. And I think a huge part of it was my husband's influence as well. When we sat down to talk together, I feel like a lot of great conversation always came out, especially in front of the camera.
Hi, I'm Nami.
And I'm Michael, and welcome to Mike.
And Nami Plus.
It's 3 cautionary signs you must know about your boyfriend.
Who you trust.
We shouldn't eat all this. It's kind of junk food, right?
Kinda.
I feel no wait. This wig though. It's not big enough. Smooth it out a bit. I'm right here.
Like Oma Pop.
Oma Pop.
Hi. I'm Mike.
How long has this channel been open? I'll try my best for you to like me. What's wrong with me that you don't like? Is it my blood? I'll get a blood transfer. Will that help? I'll exchange my personality and go to anger management therapy. You can see what type of person I was. I promise I won't yell at you anymore. I promise I won't hit you. Just please don't hate me.
So, hi.
Hi.
I've been really blessed with my husband Michael, who I basically, God gifted him to me. He's like a miracle at the perfect timing when I was having the most difficult time with my mom, who had the most conflict with in my life.
막 애들 안 먹는다고 막 소리 지르고 애들이 아프다고 막 소리 지르고 왜 그냥 가? 해결해야지 이거를.
I don't say being very fruitful if you try to sort it out now. And I know it's important, but it's just not the right space, time, and attention. It's not. And I know because so many years it's happening over and over, and it's not.
Because it was just my mom and I growing up, and she was very busy with her work, just trying to get food on the table and a roof over our heads. I don't think she understood the big impact that meaningful interaction and that one-on-one relationship development would have on my mind and my heart. I was 17 when we were pregnant with my first son. There was a lot that we were facing in our local community, a lot of judgment, a lot of gossip. I feel like that was one of the biggest things that opened up the floor for us to continue to be vulnerable and share online, especially because it's such a taboo topic. And we wanted to create a story and share our story for us to not just see the good parts of life, but also talk about the things that hurt us, talk about the things that we worry about, the things that we have a hard time with. And I think that sharing had actually ultimately changed us as well. As I raise my children, I'm able to live through their eyes and kind of rewrite my childhood. And I really want kind of the best experience that they can have. Michael and I, we say like, oh, I wonder if the kids are having the best childhood that they can possibly have. And
good job, G. Good job.
Whenever people tell me that I've impacted so many lives or so many people in positive ways, I actually am like surprised every time, because for me, I just think about how they've impacted my heart and my mind and my life. Oh, hold on, let me start over. I'm gonna wet my throat a bit.
When I came to England in 2019, I had such great hopes for this place. I really liked it here, but now I'm in my room. I can't even remember how many days I've been in the room, just watching television, sitting with a plate in my lap, eating in the room, drinking in the room, sleeping in the room, doing everything in the room. In January 2021, when I came back, drinking by myself has become fun for the first time in my life. The great thing about England when I first came here was the social aspect. All the people going out, going to cinemas, meeting up, partying. Now people meet online. The connection to the world is virtual. I feel like a shadow in the backyard, in a vacant street, in a silent house. Everything is closed. The town is locked. The city is shut. The country is closed. The whole world is on pause. This is not a good time to be creative. As being a social, interacting, organic creatures, I feel like I'm on a leash. The border between fantasy and reality becomes blurry. To be alone, to thrive in your own company, is really difficult. It's sort of an art, a craft which few can master, I think. I am struggling with it. Walking in the streets in the gloomy mist, trying to feel something, trying to get a vibe. Loneliness is the sharpest knife there is. You're unable to grasp it, to stop it. It's cutting through skin and flesh and bone and marrow. The gloomy dawn and the empty horizon. It's like a mountain chain of loneliness stretching out in the future. And we, tiny, vulnerable creatures, navigating the steep terrain. Like an egg with no yolk. Like a fragile shell needing to be filled. So we consume. To numb the nerves. Or to spike the nerves. To distract us from the lack of purpose and the scary feeling of isolation. I don't know how long I can do this. Will this ever stop?
There's not much cops can do about it.
It's becoming increasingly worse. The groups are getting larger.
We just simply could not keep up with them if we wanted to.
Because this really is happening all over. Right. It's not just one county's problem.
I want to get to that real life fast and furious.
You know, the pandemic means fewer cars are on the road these days, and street racers, they are taking advantage.
Begin arriving just about midnight, prime sleeping time, even though most often it's on the weekends.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere in the United States, and COVID has made it worse because the streets are empty, parking lots are empty.
And how do the police respond?
In the beginning, they didn't respond at all. They gave us the response that they're working on it. They've had multiple calls.
Illegal street races involving special cars, high-end cars with these modifications, and daredevils behind the wheel.
Започнах да се занимавам с коли първо като хоби. Като цяло се изнервих на няколко майстора, които им закарах колата да ми я правят. Казах, че са супер некомпетентни, много лошо обслужване, големи скъпчии и от немай къде реших да почна да си правя сам колата, като не разбирах абсолютно нищо. Почнах да чета за турбини, намерих части, смених перката, смених и охлюва, който е към перката, сложиха на колата и колата почна да върви много повече. И аз бях поразен от резултата, много се изкефих, защото реално направих хибридно турбо и после сложих и чип на колата, която тръгна още повече и така се запалих по тунинга. Състезанията ми започнаха веднага след като направих първите подобрения по колата. Исках да ги тествам с някой друг, който е правил нещо. Обикновено гледам да се състезавам с някой с по-хубава, по-бърза кола, фабрично, нали говорим. Защото ако падна, нали, не ме е много ята, ама той ако падне, продава колата на следващия ден. Полиция, слава богу, за сега не ме е гонила.
А познат ли си на полицаите?
Предполагам, че не. Не би трябвало да съм познат. Порше, примерно, поршета, джипове, всичките ги ям. БМВ-та, петици, тройки, тунинговани, много трудно ми стъпват на конете. Почти винаги остават отзад. До сега, по-скоро да ти кажа с коя кола съм се пускал и ме е била, значи на 400 метра ме бият предимно коли, които са 4 по 4.
Ако имаше повече писти, по-малко ли щяха да са състезателите на пътя?
Не. Ако имаше повече писти, то нали знаеш, че пистите са платени. Хората не им се дават пари. И е много по-сложно да отидеш на писта. Там тия, които ходят на писта, колите им не са ежедневки, ми са правени специално за писта. Те се карат на репатрак, абсолютно разкостени са. Вътре има само една седалка, всичко друго е наварено и е направено да изкара максимума за 400 метра. Ако се строши, после се ремонтира до следващото състезание. Докато при нас, тия, които сме по улиците, колите си караме всеки ден. Аз в моята кола си ходя на работа всеки ден. И ако видя някой на светофара, който е голям тарикат, просто му късам газа. Диша ми саждата. Но като цяло си подбирам хората, с които се пускам, за да е по-равностойно. Сега няма се пускам с Bugatti Veyron или някоя Мазерати или някоя Ферари. Сега в крайна сметка тя колата е моята към 400 коня и гледам да си избирам до тия коне 400-450 коня, за да ми е интересно. Сега ако колата е 500-600 коня, то няма да има смисъл. Тя ще ме бие. И, примерно...
Не е ли страх, когато...
По принцип не ме е страх. То няма от какво да те е страх. Страх ме е само да не ми се повреди колата и да ме остави на пътя.
А хората правят ли да го за пари? Залагане има ли?
Някои слагат пари, да. Аз лично не слагам пари. Но много слагат. Разбират се на по 50-100 лева. За ключ. Ключ за ключ. Това е най-бруталното. Ключ за ключ. Ако си много смел, правиш ключ за ключ. Ако биеш, взимаш колата на другия. Адреналина е най-готино да биеш с кола 4000 лева, кола 50 000 лева. Това доставя много добро удоволствие. И собственика да гледа. Нали това какво ми причини. Особено пък ако е с жена вътре. Да каже, сега гледай той какво ще го направя и не го прави нищо.
Nice car. What's the retail on one of those?
More than you can afford, pal. Ferrari.
Smoke.
Душевен оргазъм получавам, когато бия такива хора.
Каква е атмосферата на гонките?
Като на рок концерт. Как ти го обясна? Адреналин. Като на панаир. Като на сватба.
Създавал ли си приятелство на тези улични състезания?
Не бих казал.
No.
Да, само врагове. Особено ако ги биеш. Много. С ефтината ти кола. Мене алфата ми е 4000 лева. Като я купих преди 3 години. Сега сигурно е 2000 лева. Вложил съм около 3000 лева в нея. И да биеш кола за 50 000 лева. Ще ми станеш ли приятел? Не, приятелства можеш да завържеш. Не е нещо, което... Просто аз не съм. Отиваш, състезаваш се и се прибираш.
Nu, labas. Tai pasakyk, ką nors.
Nu, klausau.
Su gimtadieniu. Šventė jau.
Gimimo diena.
Tai va, rytoj dar biškai užtruksiu. Su Brischene nubytė. Nu, Reginos tikrai 8.
Ai, važiuosi į laidotuvės rytoj?
Nežinau, gal nueisiu.
Irgi skambina Elija, pasveikinu. Buvai tu iš vaikų vienintelė dar nepasveikinus.
Tai va, ką čia dar papasakojus?
Nieko, ką tu čia papasakosi miške sėdėdama. Aš irgi šiaip pasiilgau tik švęsti šventės ir Velykas, ir Kalėdas be savo šeimos, su kuria pripratus nuo vaikystės. kalėdas, bet tai nors ten vakarėlis buvo, eik, sako, kaip buvo smagu. Gal tiesiog pasiilgau švenčius tarp daug žmonių, kai mūsų šeima didelė, man neįprasta švęsti 3-4.
Kad tave tai veikia irgi aš tikiu, bet aš galvoju, kad yra ir blogiau. Tikrai yra ir blogiau. Užsidaro durys ir atsidaro kojų. O tu jauna tu esi, kūrybinga tu esi. Ne ta, kur žiūri po pirštum dzilna. Tu atsakingai žiūri. Tai yra didelis dalykas. Viskas, aš tai tikiu, kad viskas bus gerai, kad bus lengva. Manau, kad nebus lengva. O kad bus viskas gerai, tai gerai.